From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
I think it sends the wrong signal to give the government the ability to shut down websites. The web should be a free medium that promotes democracy around the world. When America is trying to convince China and Iran that they shouldn't be shutting down the web, we shouldn't be setting a bad example.
Thousands of websites go dark to protest what some call anti-piracy bills, others call censorship bills. We'll host a debate between Sandra Aistars, Executive Director of the Copyright Alliance, and Jimmy Wales, co-founder of Wikipedia, the sixth most visited website in the world, which took part in the protest. Then President Obama rejects the Keystone XL tar sands oil pipeline in a victory for environmentalists. We'll speak with Bill McKibben, founder of 350.org, which helps spearhead the protests against the pipeline.
This has become not only the biggest environmental flashpoint in many, many years, but maybe the issue in recent times in the Obama administration when he's been most directly confronted by people in the street. In this case, people willing, hopeful, almost dying for him to be the Barack Obama of 2008.
And finally, to Wisconsin, where more than 1 million signatures have been gathered seeking the recall of Republican Governor Scott Walker. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Obama administration's rejected the Keystone XL tar sands oil pipeline that would stretch from the Alberta, Canada tar sands to Gulf Coast. On Wednesday, President Obama said he's turning down TransCanada's application for the pipeline because there was not enough time to review an alternate route that would avoid the Oglala Aquifer in Nebraska. Obama had tried to delay a decision until next year, but Republicans responded by passing legislation forcing a decision by the end of February. Environmental groups have hailed the permit's rejection, but it does not mark the end of the pipeline fight. TransCanada has already announced it will reapply for a permit based on a different route, and Obama said he was only making his decision based on time constraints, not on the pipeline's merits. We'll have more on the story later in the newscast. Republican presidential hopeful Mitt Romney continues to face scrutiny over his vast personal fortune ahead of the South Carolina primary. ABC News has revealed Romney has hidden tens of millions of dollars in offshore tax havens in the Cayman Islands. Romney is said to have invested over $33 million in more than a dozen funds listed in the Caymans, while his former company, Bain Capital, holds 138 accounts there. Although Romney would still pay U.S. taxes on any investment income, the use of the tax havens would grant him other financial benefits, including greater foreign investment. Romney revealed this week he likely pays a 15% tax rate because the bulk of his income comes from investments, a lower rate than what most Americans pay on working wages. On Wednesday, Romney drew new criticism after insisting he will only release his tax records for the previous fiscal year, not the records for a number of years as presidential candidates usually do.
Tradition has been the nominee releases his tax returns in tax season in April, and I know that if I'm the nominee, people want to see the most recent year and see what happened in the most recent year and what things are up to date, and so they'll want to see the tax returns that come out in April. So rather than sort of have multiple releases of tax returns, why we'll wait until the tax returns for the recent year are completed and then release them.
In Washington, White House Press Secretary Jake Carney pointed out that Romney's own father began the tradition of releasing multiple tax returns.
Obviously, we think it's a good tradition, and that's why then Senator Obama released his tax records going back, I think, 6 or 7 years when he was a candidate for president in the 2008 election cycle. And I believe, I think it was a tradition that was initiated by then presidential candidate George Romney back in 1968, who released 12 years of tax records in '68, as I understand it.
Republican officials in Iowa are announcing the result of a recount today that's put Mitt Romney's initial victory in doubt. A new tally now shows former Pennsylvania Rick Santorum in the lead with a 34-vote advantage. A new study has identified 30 leading U.S. corporations who've spent more on lobbying Congress than they've on paying taxes. According to the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, the so-called Dirty 30 paid no federal income taxes while spending over $475 million on lobbying over a 3-year period. 29 of the firms actually collected tax rebates, and 22 of the firms used offshore tax havens. Aid groups say thousands of people have needlessly died in East Africa because of a slow international response to early signs of famine. In a new report, organizations including Oxfam and Save the Children say rich nations waited until a food shortage reached crisis levels, despite warnings as early as August 2010. Up to 100,000 people are said to have died in the famine, mostly Somalis. Aid officials say they're now gearing up for a looming hunger crisis in West Africa. The Israeli government appears to be easing off of recent threats to launch a military attack on Iran. On Wednesday, Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak said any decision to bomb Iran is, quote, very far off. In Washington, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said the U.S. remains prepared to take military action if Iran follows through on a threat to close the Strait of Hormuz.
We have continually maintained a strong presence in the region to make very clear that we were going to do everything possible to help secure the peace in that part of the world. And so the answer to your question is that, you know, we obviously always continue to make preparations to be prepared for any contingency, but we are not making any special steps at this point in order to deal with the situation. Why? Because, frankly, we are fully prepared to deal with that situation now.
The Supreme Court has ruled an Alabama death row prisoner can have another chance to challenge his execution because of a filing mistake beyond his control. The prisoner, Corey Maples, had missed a key deadline due to a mix-up in the mailroom of the law firm representing his case. The decision also enables Maples to challenge his sentence due to ineffective representation. President Obama is reportedly considering nominating his former top economic advisor, Lawrence Summers, to head the World Bank. Bloomberg News reports Summers has expressed interest in replacing Robert Zoellick when his term expires next year. Summers resigned as director of the White House National Economic Council in 2010. His key role under President Obama drew controversy because of Summers' close ties to Wall Street and his backing of deregulatory policies during his previous White House stint with the Clinton administration. And victims of phone hacking at Rupert Murdoch's News Corp say the media giant has acknowledged a cover-up of its illegal activity through destroying evidence and lying to investigators. The admission was made as part of financial settlements between News Corp and at least 19 victims. They include actor Jude Law, who will reportedly receive $200,000. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.